Hello everyone, Jake here for FMSCOUT. Welcome to today's video where we'll be breaking down an aspect of the game that so many people who play Football Manager seem to overlook, or at least, if not overlooking it, aren't even considering it in the first place. And it's something that can make your players super successful. It can make or break a youth academy product, and it might sound simple at first, but in today's video I'm going to be breaking down everything you need to know about retraining a player's position. I'll show you ways of identifying players who are possible to be retrained, talk about the attributes that make it possible for this to happen to a player, and we'll also highlight some individual cases as examples. Do stick with us in this one though, because I think even the most experienced players won't know certain aspects about retraining players' positions. But before we get into it, if you could go ahead and smash that like button, it really helps in the video's performances here on the channel and helps the channel do better, and we'd really appreciate it if you could hit that button. It only takes a few seconds. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so by clicking the subscribe button. We're getting close to 160k subs, and any support will be massively appreciated. Now, this is something that happens in real life as well. People always changing positions and learning new positions that you wouldn't have immediately thought to put them in. See, recently John Stones is playing kind of a defensive midfielder role for Pep Guardiola at Man City. Not exactly, but he is playing in that space every now and then. One of the best examples, of course, was Gareth Bale, who was playing as a fullback, suddenly got put on the wing, and all of a sudden turned into one of the best players in world football and went for record transfer fees. And you can have those kind of levels of success in your save if you get it right when it comes to retraining a player. Now, the reason this video came about is within my Aberdeen save here, we've recently signed a player who did not fit into our tactic, but he was just so good and so special that I thought we needed to bring him in, and I also had an idea about retraining his position, and I thought we'd talk about it here. As a side note, if you do want to check out the Aberdeen series, you can find it linked on my channel, which is in the description down below. Any support over there is hugely appreciated. We have the Aberdeen series, some rebuilds, and some YouTube shorts about Wonderkids you might not have heard of, so please do come over, hit the subscribe button over there. I'll be very thankful if you do. But the player in question was this man, Paulo. This is an older version of the save, but we have recently signed him, and he is someone that just looks absolutely quality, right? I mean, he's supposedly a natural attacking midfielder, 17 dribbling, 16 finishing, he's got a good first touch as well, his passing is really good, his mental attributes are strong, and his physicals are also really good too. Now, I looked at him straight away, and before even looking at his position, I just assumed he was going to be a striker, but he's not. His natural position is attacking midfield. He's slightly competent in the centre of midfield, but he's got absolutely nothing when it comes to being a striker. But I looked at him straight away and thought he could make a very good forward player. Whether that's a complete forward or an advanced forward, I think he'd do a great job for us. I think he'd be a brilliant attacking midfielder or a shadow striker, but just purely for our tactics' sake, he doesn't really fit into that, and I wanted to make him part of our team still, and that's why I think training him for that forward position would be effective. But then it begs the question, how did I know to do this? Is it just experience? Is there ways to know if it's going to work or not? So I'm going to break that down for you, but the first question is, how did I know if he was going to make a good striker? Well, firstly, it comes down to looking at the player's attributes, right? The first thing that stuck out to me was the finishing attribute and his dribbling attribute. I thought straight away with those high attributes, he will be playing a more forward-thinking attacking position, looking to score goals. And then on top of that, I started looking at other attributes I look for in my strikers. Decent bit of pace, acceleration, agility, the long shots are there. The passing attributes also can be handy for a striker, particularly if you're looking at a complete forward. And this really does all come from experience on the game and knowing what to look for. For me, I saw those attributes straight away. I just thought, oh, he will make a perfect striker. Now, if you haven't been playing the game forever, it's going to be hard to pick those things out, but it will come with time. And what you should be doing with every player that you sign is don't just assume the position they're natural in is their best position. Have a think and think, you know what, would he make a good inverted winger? Would he make a good fullback? Would he make a good defensive midfielder? All of those things can be taken into account to try and find the right players for your team. Now, even though we've identified Paulo as having good attributes to be a striker, it doesn't necessarily mean he'll adapt to the position well or even at all, but there's a hidden attribute within the game that determines whether this player is going to be able to make that transition at a decent speed and not take 5 years to do so. So we'll talk about that in a second, but first I'm going to quickly show you how you would even go about changing a player's position and making them natural. This might be something that a lot of players do know, but for those who aren't experienced in doing this, all you need to do, even if you don't manage your training fully and you leave it to your assistant manager, you can still influence a player's individual training. Let's say we've got Oscar Pereira here and we want to turn him into a striker. All you do is go to development, to training, and then when it comes to his position, role / duty, you go on to that, select the position you want to make him, if that's an advanced forward, and now he's going to be focusing in on that position in training, and as the months go by, we should slowly see him becoming more competent in that new position. But what you will also notice is when we select this advanced forward position, it highlights all the attributes he'd need for that role and shows you the attributes that he's going to be training. So if you're someone that doesn't know exactly what position you want someone in, you can go around using this feature, have a look at all the different roles. Would you make a good deep line forward? Maybe not so much, then you can keep playing around with it. Maybe you think, okay, complete forward, could he do a good job of that? Okay, he looks like a decent complete forward, maybe we can go for that. So that's a way that you can figure things out if you're not completely clued up on the game. If all of the highlighted attributes look decent, then there's a good chance they could play that position well. But as mentioned, there is a hidden attribute within the game that will determine whether this is going to work with a player, and that is versatility. Now I'm going over here to Patrick Wimmer because he's a player that I know is extremely versatile. You can see he's natural on either wing and can also play fullback. In some saves I've seen him able to play left back also, and pretty much anywhere along this forward line. I believe he can even play central midfield. Now the reason that he's so good in a bunch of different positions is because if you go to his hidden attributes, you'll see one called versatility, and that is at a very high number of 19. It's between 1 and 20. The higher it is, the more versatile a player is. If a player has high versatility, it will usually mean that player can play a bunch of positions already, but it also determines a player's ability to learn a new position effectively and efficiently. So if a player has 20 versatility, it doesn't mean they'll be able to play every position on the pitch. They might only have 2 natural positions when you start your save, but it will mean if you try and train them in a new position that they'll take to it like a duck to water. But obviously, most of us aren't playing with the editor. Most of us won't want to look at the hidden attributes of a player, and that's why I've picked Patrick Wimmer here, because he's not part of our Aberdeen team. But without the editor, if you want to tell if a player's versatile, usually you'll see on here that they can play a bunch of positions already. You'll also sometimes see something noted in the coach report to say is natural in a bunch of positions, can play a lot of positions, and on the opposite end of that spectrum, sometimes you'll have a con in a player's report where it will just say he can only play one position, and obviously that will indicate to you that maybe the player isn't as versatile as you might think. Going back to Paulo, he's only natural in one position and slightly competent in another, so you might look at him and think, well, he's not very versatile, he won't be able to play other roles. That's not necessarily true. It just might take him a little bit longer than someone who is super versatile and able to learn things very quickly, but often it can take time for a player to learn new positions, and this is where a very important aspect of player retraining comes in. I spoke about earlier that when you sign a player or when you take over a new club, you should look at each player and judge them based on their attributes to see where they might be able to play for you. But obviously, as it does take quite a bit of time to learn these new positions, a good idea is every time you get a youth intake at your club is to go through every single player, or at least the ones that you think might have at least some potential, and identify what might be the best position for them and start retraining them for that position. Or maybe a player comes through who just plays a role that isn't in your tactic at all and you don't see it ever being in your tactic. For example, maybe you get a player that's only natural as a left midfielder, but you don't have left midfielders. Straight away as they come through, go to their training and start training them in their new position. Obviously, with them being young and not coming into your first team just yet, this is a great time to get them learning a new position, and by the time they make it into your first team, there's a good chance they're going to be natural in that role that you want them to be. If you identify these players early enough, they can learn those new positions and roles, and when they break into the first team, they can just take to it straight away. And my example here is this man, Trevor. Now, he came through in our youth intake in our 2nd or 3rd season, and he was solely natural in the attacking midfield position. But we don't play a number 10, we don't play anyone there, we play a 4-3-3, but one of our midfield slots, the Mezzala slot, is encouraged to go forward and attack often. So I thought, you know what, he's a good passer of the ball, he's decent going forward, he's very physically dominant. I thought he could make a good Mezzala over time, so straight away as he came in from the youth intake, we started training him as a Mezzala. He's now natural in that position, he also has that role as his most preferred role, and that's where we've been playing him recently, and it was this season that he made his way into the first team, into that role, and he took to it like I couldn't believe. From only 17 starts, he scored 8 goals and got 6 assists, and that was with an average match rating of a 7.19. So every game he played at a good level. He's very good in the in-game engine. He's not having to worry about learning that position. He knows it down to a T already, and that's let him come into the first team and play exactly how we'd want him to. So every time you look at a new signing or a youth intake player, analyze them and train them for the positions that you want want and the roles that you want for your team. The quicker you do it, the better, and obviously the more versatile a player is, the easier they're going to adapt to a new position. But we spoke about doing it to young players, and I'm just going to finish off by quickly mentioning that it's very important to also do this with your older players. We saw it a few years ago with Wayne Rooney in real life. It wasn't absolutely exceptional in terms of the results that you had from him, but it did allow him to prolong his career a little bit longer than he otherwise might have done. And that is when you get older and your physical attributes decline. It's going to happen to a bunch of players. When it's a centre-back, maybe it's not the end of the world. Take Thiago Silva, for example. If they're very good mentally and technically, they might not need the physical attributes, but particularly when it comes to forward players, when they haven't got that pace, when they haven't got the strength anymore, when they're starting to slow down, it's very hard to still find them be effective. But that doesn't mean that you should necessarily write the player off completely. Take Harry Kane here. He's 33. His physical attributes are getting to the point now where they're about to start going down for Tottenham, and a lot of the time you will see him drop into midfield as he gets older in your saves. Now, he's got great passing ability, he's also a good finisher, he works hard, and he could be an excellent box-to-box midfielder, but eventually his pace, his stamina, his acceleration will start to decline. So I think maybe a deep line playmaker for Harry Kane would be a perfect position, and it's these kind of things you want to look at. As your players get older, have a look at them and see, you know what, he's not quite contributing up front anymore, but maybe we can move him back, maybe we can move him out wide and find a new role for him. So take a look at the players in your save and see if you can retrain any of them. You might find there's some stars in your team waiting to be unearthed. If you have enjoyed the video, smash the like button for us, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.